Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. We are now live on YouTube. Over to you, Atsuko.
Thank you. 皆さん、こんにちは。今日はセミナーにお越しいただいてありがとうございます。本日は University of Brighton の MSc ファイナンスのコースリーダーのロブさんにお越しいただいております。プレゼンテーションをまずさせていただいて、その後質疑応答の時間を設けますので、プレゼンテーションの後にご質問がある方は、チャットボックスなどでお知らせください。よろしくお願いします。So, Rob, please start your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My name is Rob Hayward, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the MSc Finance suite of programs that we have at the University of Brighton. And I'll show you a little bit about the structure of the courses, maybe a touch about Brighton, and also some of the software we use on the course to try to make it real for you. Obviously, you can ask questions as we go along. We're going to hold those until the end. And what I'll do now is I'll try to share my screen so that you can look at the slides. So, yeah, this is me. It's Rob Hayward, and it's University of Brighton. And I'm the course leader for the suite of programs which are associated with finance and economics. This is my email address. I'll put this up again at the end so that if you have any questions which come to you after this session, you can send me an email and ask me for some information if that's what you need. So this is the University of Brighton, and this is a picture of Brighton. And this is really what it is like today, more or less. It's quite a nice sunny day, 20 degrees. There's a beach here. We're about 60 miles from London, and that's about 1 hour by train to London. Usually Brighton's considered quite a nice place. It's relatively small compared to some big cities, but there's a lot going on. It's considered to be quite cosmopolitan and quite avant-garde, and so people do like it because there's lots of things to do for young people. Okay, so the programs that I'm responsible for are firstly MSc Finance and Investment, also Finance and Banking, Finance and Risk Management, and Finance and Accounting. Also Economics and Finance. And essentially these programs fit together in what we call a kind of suite, which are all associated really with finance, economics, investment, risk management, and accounting. The structure of the programs is such that there is some flexibility so that if students want to adjust the program as they go along, there is some scope to do that right up until the beginning of the second semester. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a look at the structure of the program and show you a little bit about how things fit together. But essentially, if you sign up for one of these programs, it's possible up to the middle of January to switch to an alternative program if you find as you're going along that one of the alternatives better suits your requirements. So the way the program's broken down is more or less into three parts. The first part is the first semester, which runs more or less from the beginning of October right through to the middle of January. And this is where we have the core elements of the programs. We have, first of all, ECM 171, which is the economics of financial markets. And this is really about macroeconomics, about the workings of the economy, particularly in relation to financial markets. So we're looking particularly at foreign exchange, at bond markets, at equity markets, and we're looking at the way that they influence the economy and the key characteristics of these markets. We also have FNM 191, which is financial theory and practice. So this is about finance. It's about corporate finance. It's also about financial management. It is about the introduction to things like options and derivatives. And it's the basis for learning later about more on risk management. We also have ECM 201, which is research methods in finance and economics. And so one of the features here is that this is a master's program which is designed to get you ready to be able to do independent research. And I'll come on to the independent research, which is part of this program, in a little while. But clearly, one of the things that you could do after this program is you could progress to do a PhD. And so one of the things this program prepares you for is for further research, but also, of course, research in the private sector. So if you were working for a business, you would be ready to do research into whatever they wanted you to do. So research methods is the first step towards that. And generally, one of the key things people are using research methods for in the area of finance and economics is for doing statistical analysis. And so a lot of this first module is really about the basics of statistics, how you can use statistics to understand the relationship between variables. And clearly, one of the things you're going to be doing here is doing things like econometrics. And so we introduce you to some software which is called eViews. It's common econometric software which is used in lots and lots of universities. And it allows you to look at things like regression analysis, which will allow you to estimate the relationship between two different variables. And so, for example, if you wanted to know how inflation affects bond markets, you could have a look at the relationship between inflation statistics and bond market data. So these are the three core modules. As I say, they will run from the time you arrive in Brighton, which would be starting at the beginning of October, more or less, and it would run right the way through past the Christmas holiday into the middle of January. All the programs will take these fundamental core modules because all the programs require knowledge of economics, of finance, and research methods. The second semester runs from mid-January through to mid-June, and this is where you would do your specialist modules, which would be associated with the particular pathway that you had chosen to look at. So, for example, if you are looking at finance and accounting, then you would look at modules which were associated with accounting. Particularly in this case, it will be research methods in accounting, because clearly there are particular things which are of interest to people who are researching accounting issues, maybe about IFRS or maybe about corporate governance. And so we would teach you about the specialities there. And so in other words, what's happening in this second semester is that you're looking at the specializations which you're going to have to deal with your particular pathway. So some of the modules we look at are things like econometrics in more detail. And so quite a few of the pathways will take time series econometrics, which will teach you about things like GARCH and ARCH. And these are more sophisticated technical statistical methods. Also, of course, I mean, if you're doing financial risk management, you're going to have to learn about some of the tools and techniques which are specific to that discipline. And investment and trading, people will be looking at particular modules which would help them in the whole world of fund management or investment management. It's also possible after these specialist modules, the full list of which you can get on the website, or you can send me an email and I can give you details of that. But it's possible at this point that you could pause your studies because we do have a placement option. And the placement option is one where you would, at the end of the second semester, somewhere around the middle of June, leave the university for 1 year and go to work for an employer. And this would give you some valuable work experience, and it would essentially run from June until next June. So you'll be away working for a year. During that period, you would get some support from the university in the sense that you would have a supervisor who would make sure that everything was running smoothly. And you would have the opportunity of doing a project which was about the placement which you're taking. So in other words, you would be doing a placement and you might want to do some research for that particular company. And so you could do that research as part of your degree. And this would be an alternative to the dissertation, which most people will be conducting once they finish the second semester. So obviously the placement is a great option because it gives you some work experience. And at the University of Brighton, we've got a very experienced and well-regarded placement office, which has been placing students for 15 or 20 years. So they've got huge experience in fitting students to jobs. They've got lots of good relationships with employers, which have been lasting for many years. And it's become a much more fashionable, much more usual for degree courses now to offer a placement option, because it's clear that it's really valuable for students. It means that not only have they got the technical and theoretical knowledge which they get with their degree, but they've also got some work experience, which is going to be invaluable when students go on to try to get a job in the future. The placements are also good for employers, of course, in the sense that, as you know, probably one of the difficult things for employers is understanding which candidates are actually going to be best for the job. Of course, they will look at your CV, your resume, and they will also probably hold interviews. But frequently, it's difficult to get enough information from those sources to be able to really tell whether someone is suitable for the job. That's why a placement is great for companies, that they can use this more or less like a year-long interview to understand whether the candidate is suitable. And although many of you would probably go eventually back to wherever you came from, and you'll be looking for jobs in your home country, if you're placed with international companies, maybe there'll be an opportunity for you at home. And certainly having the work experience would be a great thing to be able to show to future employers that you've been working away in another country while you were doing your degree. Of course, these placement projects are not guaranteed. They are competitive positions, and so people have to apply for the jobs. Often they're in competition with other students to get those jobs, but there is big demand for students, and so we hope that many students who would like to take the placement option will be able to do that. For those who don't, then what happens next is that from mid-June until the middle of October, you will be writing your dissertation. And so the dissertation is a body of work which is about 10,000 words, and it is a piece of research which is connected to your degree pathway. And so essentially, the pathway which you choose will be dependent upon the specialist modules that you take, as well as the dissertation which you carry out. So, for example, if your degree is finance and risk management, then you would take specialist modules in risk management, and you would also do a dissertation in the area of risk management. The dissertation really is the linchpin of the whole degree, because it brings together all the things that you have learned on the course and allows you to put them into practice yourself to produce this body of work, which is your own research. Again, it's something which is really valuable for you to be able to show to employers, to show what you've done. And as a part of this, you will be provided with a supervisor, somebody who has research experience in the field with which you're studying, and they will help you on this process, which is really a guided study of independent research, where you will work with the supervisor to produce your dissertation. So as you can see, overall, the degree is quite compact. It is crushed more or less into 13 months of work, just over 1 year. And so in some ways, that's quite attractive, because a lot of countries have master's programs which are longer than this, but it also means that it's quite intense, because you're squeezing quite a lot of work into a short period of time. Generally, what the weekly program will look like is that you've got 3 modules. We saw in the first semester, you've got economics, finance, and research methods. Those 3 modules will usually comprise about 3 or 4 contact hours per module per week. So we're talking about maybe 12 hours contact time when you'll be in university, working in workshops, in seminar classes, or maybe in some cases having lectures and learning face-to-face. And then there will be requirements for you to do additional work, to solve problems and to do reading and to make preparation for the class. And so overall, this is a full-time course which requires that you are working hard all the time in order to achieve all the learning which is necessary. The next thing I want to have a look at very quickly is some of the software which we use on the finance suite of programs. And the first piece of software here is something which is called Rotman Interactive Trader. And the Rotman Interactive Trader is a piece of software which will simulate a financial market. And so it will allow you to operate as if you are participating in a financial market. And technology willing, I'm going to show you how the simulation works, just to give you a flavor of the sort of things that students might be doing in a class. So if I can share my screen, I'm hoping that you can see now something which looks like a financial market. Can someone tell me if they can't see the financial market? I'm hoping this is okay. And what we have here is the market itself is over here on the left-hand side, where we have buy orders and sell orders. And these buy orders and sell orders are put into the market by traders. This simulation here is about a investment bank which is dealing with a stock which is called HRA. So HRA is Harbinger, and it's a stock which is trading, and the investment bank has some customers, and the customers are going to be buying and selling this stock. And so what happens is the customer says, I want to buy Harbinger, and the salesperson says, sure, you can have it, we'll sell it to you. And if that happens, it means the market maker, which is me, the person who's working in the market, will find that they're now short. And you can see up here, the position is that I am short by 5,000 shares because the customer came and bought them from us. And now I have to go into the market and get those shares. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some orders into the market to try and buy these shares back. And I'm going to put orders in on the bid side, which you can see is over here on the left-hand side. And I'm going to use the order system, which says that I can submit a buy order for the price of 10.01. And if I put this into the market, you'll see that I will be in here, Rob, at 10.01. And I bought 1,000 shares. I can also put sell orders in. So if I put this in here at 10.02 and click the button, I should get a sell order for 10.02. And you can see there I am in the market. I'm making the market, putting offers in to buy and offers in to sell. Buy is on the left-hand side, sell is on the right-hand side. And my position up here is such that I bought 1,000 and I'm just about to sell 1,000. And so I've bought and sold, everything's been cleaned out. You can see over here, this is the share price. It's going sideways because it's a simulation. It's not a real market. This is designed just to get students used to the way of putting orders into an electronic order market. These electronic order markets are the markets which dominate financial markets currently. And so although this is a relatively easy simulation to start with, it does give people an idea about how financial markets work. And even, of course, most people are not going to be traders. It does mean that they understand the workings of financial markets, so that if they are working for a company which wants to raise funds, they know a little bit about what's going on. And you can see here what's happened. I've now had a customer who sold shares or stock to me. They sold 5,000, and therefore I've got the 5,000 of this Harbinger stock, which I don't really want. And so I'm going to try and sell that. And so I'm going to put these sell orders into the market. You can see I've put an order to sell 1,000.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Rob. Actually, we are not able to see the screen. We are seeing the screen which shows RIT. Is that the only screen? You have to unshare and share it again, selecting the window.
Okay. Can you see now?
No. You have to select share screen and then select the window.
Okay, so
yes, it is perfect now. Yeah.
So this is this is what I was talking about all the time while you were looking at the blank screen. This is the market over here, which is moving up and down, and this is the position up here, which is I've got. So what's happening is the customers are coming and buying and selling, and when they sell, I get a position like this, which is plus 4,000 because they sold it to me. So now I'm holding the stock, and now I'm thinking I should try to get rid of that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start selling, and you can see here I've got a sell order, which is 1,000 at 10:02. So if I click this button, you can see there is my order to sell 1,000 at 10:02. Gets taken, and so my position goes from 4,000 to 3,000. If I do the same thing again, I should be able to sell some more, and you can see it's gradually getting taken out and my position's coming down. So this way I'm operating in this financial market and putting buy orders and sell orders into the market, so that I'm just getting the hang of working out how this limit order market works. So this is one piece of software which we have. The other piece is, let me progress across. Is Bloomberg. And so this is a picture of Bloomberg, which is the other piece of software which we use for students to try to get them used to the sort of software which is used in financial markets, which can be used for students to do research as well. And so just as a kind of introduction, this is one of the main pages on Bloomberg, which is WEI. It's the World Equity Indexes. And so you can see here it's broken up into a number of different regions. We've got the Americas. So these are all the US markets, which of course are closed at the moment. And you can see this is what happened yesterday. Mostly they were down, they're all red. And you can see the percentage change yesterday. And a bit of information about the markets themselves. European markets here, these are ones that open. You've got the Euro stock market, the UK FTSE, the French CAC, the German DAX, the Spanish IBEX, and the MIB, which is the Italian index. You can see that these ones are mostly up, and the green bars here are showing that. And then below we've got the Asia Pacific, got the Japanese Nikkei, the Hong Kong Hang Seng, we've got the CSI and the overall S&P Asian index. You can see that there's a bit of a mixed performance here. It seems to me that the market started off weaker. US market was weak yesterday, and then it's turned more positive as the day has progressed. And probably what we'd expect to see is these US markets turning around and becoming more positive as the day goes on. And so the US system, the Bloomberg system's got lots of information here. This is about equity markets, but equally, if we look at WB, we will see the world bond indices. And so, for example, we've got a similar sort of thing here with bond markets. We've got Americas, we've got European bond markets, and we've got the Asia Pacific bond markets. And it tells us something about what's happened to the yields in the US, in Europe, and in Japan overnight. And we can also look at things like news. So if I just type news in, you can see the top news is here. This will give me some indication about what are the key stories which have been affecting markets overnight. And if we click on these, we can get more information about the particular story. We can drill down. And so generally what we're using this for is for allowing students to use some of the key financial software which is used by professionals in the area of financial services. And the system is really nice and intuitive to know. So if we want to find out something about a company, let's think of something like Apple, for example. If I search for Apple, you can see it comes up with Apple US equity. And so this will give us a page which tells us something about the Apple Corporation. We hear something about the overall performance. It was up the day before and it's down yesterday like most others. And we've got lots of information here which will give us some details. So first of all, the security description gives us an overview of the company. If we didn't know what it was already, it's telling us about it designs, manufactures personal computers and personal computer equipment. And we can always look for more information. If we look for the information about, for example, a price graph. If you look for the price graph, it will tell us something about the performance of the company. You can see that this is the share price over a number of days, and this is the volume of shares traded. And so generally, we can always search for information, get more details. We've got related functions, which will take us back to find out things like the company financials. And so we can look here and find all the details about the cash flow, the income statement, the balance sheet of Apple. And you can see that there's lots and lots of information here. Most of this can be exported directly to Excel, so it can be used for research as well whenever people want to look at companies in more detail. So here what I've done is I've clicked the button, I've downloaded this information about Apple's financials into an Excel spreadsheet, and gradually that's going to be populated with data so that I can save the spreadsheet and use it for some research about the Apple Corporation. And so there's a combination of these two bits of software, the Rotman Trader, which is a simulation for financial markets, and also the Bloomberg system, which is a key piece of financial information, which will allow students to say that they have expertise at using the Bloomberg terminal for understanding what's going on in financial and other markets, and also for acquiring information about economies, about companies, and about different financial markets. So you can see here, now the data's all been downloaded. I've got information about the earnings per share, the margin on Apple. You can see this margin is the difference between the profits and the costs. And so you can see how big the margin is, which is a testament to the brand of Apple, how they're able to secure this markup over costs because of the popularity of their brand and their products. Let me go back to the slides. So RIT was one of the things we looked at. And Bloomberg is the other one. This is the normal Bloomberg terminal set up with two screens so that people are allowed to collect all the information they want from the two screens and to use that as a way to drill down and do research on particular topics which are relevant to their studies. The other issue I wanted to talk about was some of the former students and things that they've done since they left the university. So one former student is Matt. He is the CEO and co-founder of Evia. And Evia is a organization which is rating cryptocurrencies. And so what Matt has done, Matt Dixon, he has used his finance and investment degree to understand some of the metrics which can be used to try to understand or evaluate the performance of cryptocurrencies. And you can search for Evia and you can have a look at the sort of evaluation which is taking place there. And what you'll see is that Evia is rating over 400 cryptocurrencies in a system which is rather like the rating system for credit, which is used by Standard & Poor's and Moody's and companies like this. And so it's been translated into something similar, which is designed to evaluate the financial position of cryptocurrencies from Bitcoin, Ether, right through to some of the lesser known things as well. Another person is Estadio, who is a student of economics and finance. He was a student maybe 3 years ago, and he's now gone on to be a journalist for Modern Diplomacy. And you can have a look and search for him. He's got lots of really interesting stories in the area of finance and technology and the way the world is changing. Outside of that, there's a range of activities that students have gone on to do after they've finished the program. We've got people who have been a fund administrator. We've got someone working for Epworth Investment Management. We've got assistant vice president, corporate lending. We've got someone working for ING Bank in Turkey, a price analyst, someone working for GEC, and also junior dealers, and a whole range of other activities. And there's a huge opportunity of course, in financial services, but also beyond that, in the range of new financial companies which are developing the new technologies, and also outside of that in the area of policy and government guidance, as well as regulation, and working with things like exchanges and data providers and news analysts. So there's a huge range of opportunities. And also, as I said before, there's also the possibility of people moving from their master's degree into research. And with our background in research support, we hope that you would be able to move on to other opportunities in the field of research if that was what you wanted to do. The other thing to say is, I suppose, is that we are in the process of moving. We have for many years been in a building called Mithras House, which is many years old. And in about 3 weeks' time, we're going to be moving into a brand new office. There it is. It's called Elm House, and it's going to be the place where the University of Brighton Business and Law School will reside. And so we're really looking forward to this. It will have state-of-the-art offices and equipment, and it'll be a nice change for us and a real boost for students as they enter the classroom in the new academic year. Just finally, talking a bit more about Brighton. It is a lively place here. There's not only the sea, but there's also the cultural benefits and the shopping and restaurants and everything else which goes on with the place, which makes it really attractive. And probably that's all I have to say, but I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to speak to you today, and I'm really willing to answer any questions which you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Now, we are going forward to Q&A session. もし、ご質問のある方いらっしゃいましたら、チャットボックスからお知らせくださいませ。Actually, we have guests, students watching your seminar on YouTube, and we got a couple of questions from YouTube. YouTube からもご質問いただいておりますので、ありがとうございます。こちら読ませていただきますね。What are the fees for your course with accommodation? Tuition fee.
The tuition fee is I think it's 20,000 for overseas students, and it is net of accommodation fees. So the accommodation is kind of separate, and so we don't sell it together as a package, but they are two separate things. The accommodation is much improved in Brighton now, because I was talking just now about the new building which we have for the business school. But also, in fact, there's been a huge development. And if you search for Brighton Big Deal, you'll see that there is a whole range of new buildings associated with the university, and they include student accommodation. And so I'm afraid haven't got the details of the accommodation prices available at my fingertips, but I can find out for you. And if you send me an email, I will find that information. But essentially, the opportunities for University of Brighton accommodation have been increased greatly as a result of the building program, which is just being complete. And so, although it's not one package, it does mean that there is a much easier chance to get accommodation actually on the University of Brighton site than there was in the past.
Thank you so much. The next question is, and what career opportunities are available during and post MSc Finance program?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for the placements, there are some finance opportunities available, and some involve investment banks, some involve fund managers, quite a few involve regular commercial banks. Some involve organizations such as exchanges, but also there's a whole range of new, what we call financial technology companies, which are emerging. They're generally smaller companies, and they are really interested in getting people who have knowledge or enthusiasm about financial services and markets. And mostly some of these companies are related to technology. Matt Dixon, who I spoke about as a former student, is one person who has managed to start up a company in this area. And it's a combination of technology and financial knowledge, which is really in demand for people who have some understanding of general finance, to work with those who have much greater understanding of the new technologies, particularly crypto, and also web-based applications. For the post-program employment, again, there's a huge range of possibilities. I think that traditionally students have tended to go into things like fund management or into banks. They have sometimes gone into investment banks. We've had people also go into the Treasury Department of large companies. And as you know, the Treasury Department is the part which manages the company's money, makes sure that it has funds available for when they're needed, and also makes use of those funds in between the time that the money arrives and when it's going to be delivered. There's also some opportunities for positions in government. I mean, quite a few governments have departments which are interested in both financial regulation or general regulation. And there's a whole range of industries which are supporting the financial services. So news, things like Bloomberg itself is a huge organization which is providing news and information and data which is used for people to make financial decisions. Data itself is now a big product. So there are a number of smaller organizations than Bloomberg who also specialize in providing new types of data for people and decision makers. And these small companies, they're usually interested in things like social media data, so that people can use social media as a way to try to understand things like sentiment or expectations. And again, these are things which are used for people to make decisions, not only in financial services, but also in the broader business world. So it's hard to narrow it down, but I think particularly in a time like the present, where so much is uncertain, it's reassuring to know, I think, that we try to aim to give you the sort of skills which will give you some flexibility. And so that's one of the reasons why the research dissertation is such an important part of the degree, because it's going to give you the skills which would allow you to do research and develop your knowledge irrespective of which field you're in. So even if you were eventually to move into different fields, you still would have those core research qualities which would allow you to do really well at whatever it is you chose to do.
Thank you. So the next question is, what's the difference between your ACCA diploma course and ACCA MSc course?
I'm not really an expert in this, but I have been quite a few times with the course leader, and I think from memory that the diploma is much more of a standard ACCA course, which allows you to complete the units of the ACC program, whereas the ACC Masters gives you a bit more research responsibility and technique. So again, I think it's more about the Masters level being an extra step, which gives you a dissertation on top of your regular ACCA program. But again, let me check and find out more details about that for you. And especially if you send me an email, I can find out for certain exactly what all the differences are between the two.
Thank you so much. The next question is, I'm working at an audit company, but my bachelor degree is in law. Do you require any mathematics and other quantitative studies to apply for your finance courses?
No, we don't. The reason we don't is because we start off by teaching you the elements of mathematics which you're going to need for the program. And so a large part of the research methods and the financial theory and practice which you do in the first semester will be about the mathematical tools and techniques which you require. I think having work experience in audit and knowing something about the legal position would be really valuable qualities which would allow you to benefit from the course, certainly.
Thank you. 他に質問ないですか？もう質問全部読んでしまったんですけど、他に最後質問があればご遠慮なくチャットボックスからお知らせください。A question from me. Is there any way to escape from dissertation? You explained about dissertation before.
Yeah, there is a way to escape from the dissertation, and that is to get a placement and do a project for the placement instead of the dissertation. And I mean, in a way, it's not really escaping because the project is similar to a dissertation, but it's less academic. And I suppose some people might prefer to do something which is much more practical, which is much more about the things that they're actually working on. And so in that sense, a placement project would be ideal for those people who wanted to do something which was much more work orientated. And so generally the best placement projects are those which work for the benefit of the company for which you're working, because sometimes they allow you to get specialist data, which would be impossible to get if you were outside the company. And usually they allow you to do something which is going to be valuable for the company itself. And if it's going to be valuable for the company itself, they're probably going to give you lots of time and lots of help with the project. And that means you'll get a good mark, and it will be a great thing to be able to tell people, employers in the future, that you've done. So the only way to escape the dissertation is to do a placement project, really.
Okay, thank you.
Most people quite like their dissertation because it's sort of their work and it's their chance to do something that they're really interested in. And, you know, it's something which is your responsibility as the student to manage and control. And although you've got a supervisor to help you, it really ends up being your piece of work. So it's something which is quite personal. And most people, when they finish, they really like it.
Right. Thank you. なので、ディサテーションを書きたい方はディサテーション書いて、ディサテーション書きたくない方はワークプレイスメントでちょっとカバーするっていう方法があるみたいですね。皆さん他質問ないですか？ I think we are done. Thank you so much for your presentation, Rob.
Okay.
Are you comfortable?
Thank you.
Are you comfortable with sharing your presentation with me so that I can send it to the students?
Of course.
Yes, thank you. So
Thank you.
今日はありがとうございました。後ほどまた皆さんにメールをお送りさせていただきますので、ブライトン大学にご興味のある方、ぜひ出願してみてください。Thank you so much everyone for today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.